Now, US commanders in Afghanistan are also keeping an eye on developments in nearby Pakistan. The government there has agreed to reinstate Sharia law in the Swat Valley. And the senior Muslim cleric who struck that deal has led a peace march in the region. Al Jazeera's Imran Khan reports from the Swat Valley in Pakistan.
This peace march, with its monochromed flags raised aloft, snakes through the main Swat Valley city of Mingora. But even as they celebrate, Sufi Muhammad and his followers face a huge challenge: persuading the self-styled Pakistani Taliban that this deal is in their best interests. This rally is going to Mutta, a Taliban stronghold. The Taliban are wary of the peace deal on a number of counts. Religiously, they would like a stricter implementation of Sharia or Islamic law. Politically, they feel that they could lose power to Sufi Muhammad, and without power they lose financially. They run a number of businesses and an informal system of taxation, or as others have called it, violent extortion. Lastly, they fear reprisal from some sections of the local populace. And with laying down of arms part of the peace deal, many feel that the Taliban could be weak. In the meantime, the streets of the Swat Valley are back to their hectic normality, and there's hope that it will last.
God willing, if they are sincere, both groups will agree. They both want Islam, and they both have the same agenda.
If another outside party doesn't interfere, then things will go smoothly. We all hope, God willing.
And that hope even extends to the police, who have rarely been seen on the streets of Swat since the Pakistani Taliban took over nearly 2 years ago.
Walking around these streets, you can easily forget that this was a war zone just a few days ago. However, the success of this peace deal rests upon Maulana Sufi Muhammad and the Pakistani Taliban coming to some sort of agreement. However, even if they do, that has worried some people in Kabul and in Washington and beyond. They say that you've just appeased the extremists. However, for the people here, the so-called extremists just want to live a life more in line with Islamic principles. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, Mingora, the Swat Valley.
For more, we're now joined by Faiysal AliKhan from the Foundation for Integrated Development Action. It's an association that operates in South Waziristan and works to support local development in the entire region. So we just heard there the cleric Sufi Muhammad calling for a peace march. Is that a good thing for the region?
Well, it can be viewed as both. I mean, it's a good thing for there to be peace after all this bombing that has taken place in this region. However, the agreement itself is, I would not say, seen as a valid agreement by the people.
The agreement meaning the agreement that the Pakistani government struck with leaders in the Swat Valley to reinstate Sharia law. Yeah. Why isn't it a good
Because the people of Swat had, in the last election, elected their leaders, who are the members of the NP, the provincial government, who at the moment are unable to even go into their area. And the people who are seen to be representing the people in Swat, the non-state actors, are imposing a view on the people.
But what would be the alternative? The Pakistani government says it was the best way for them to put an end to the fighting that had been going on in that region for 20 months.
Well, the fighting that's been taking place, when there's one party agrees to the other, if there are two parties involved, it is seen as a submission, whereas there should always be a third party involved to arbitrate an issue like this. In terms of the Sharia, it is a law that we've had in Swat in the past, in 93 and in 94 and 91. It's something that in our constitution, in the 1973 constitution, is protected, where no law can be enacted in our country which is not looking at Sharia or going against Sharia. So the provisions are already made in our constitution for this.
How do you stabilize the country without entering into a direct dialogue with all the forces involved?
No, there must be dialogue with the forces involved. After all, the people who are fighting or up in arms are fighting for some reason. But it should be at the appropriate forum. At the moment, the people of Swat have been displaced. There are hundreds and thousands of people who fled their homes. The place is under siege. Under these conditions, striking an agreement with a group like that is I would say, harmful to the long-term peace. Maybe we would see in the short term a ceasefire, but in the long term, how would this be sustainable?
How do most people in the Swat Valley and the region that you come from, in the northwest frontier province, how do they view this kind of deal?
I think the people are interested, they want peace. They are sick of all the fighting that has taken place. The drone attacks, which are also abounding most of these areas, are seen very negatively. So people are just sick of the violence. They would be happy if there was some sort of dialogue in order to end the violence, but dialogue with the appropriate, in the appropriate fashion. I think the mode of mediation is very important.
How do you think the increase in US troop numbers in nearby Afghanistan will affect some of these areas and some of these groups? Do you think it might galvanize some of them to continue the fight?
The local people we work with in the southern part of the tribal areas as well as the settled districts, they look at the Park of Khan Jirga as a sacred space for a negotiation. Whenever a jirga sits, it means that both parties are not fighting. On one side, if we are talking about having a Park of Khan Jirga for peace, and on the other side, we are having a surge of troops, to the local people, it doesn't show as though there's a peaceful intention. So I think it's damaging to the cause of peace, and for the local people, they would be resentful towards any sort of surge of occupation forces.
And more than half the population in Pakistan, interestingly, is under the age of 30. How do you reach out to these groups? And you've done a lot of developmental work.
We are working with the youth in our country in Pakistan, and similarly in Afghanistan, it's in the high 60%, the number of people under 26 years old. So we really see this as their future, and it's important for them to take ownership and to be given a choice to be able to fight back in their country. So we are working to provide them with alternative channels in education, working on local projects with law, and just to have their own youth-run organizations.
Faiysal AliKhan, thank you very much indeed.